Welcome to the Viewfinder show, where we chat with creatives about the how and why of storytelling. My name is John Scott. I am a senior producer at CBN. With me today is the always entertaining and energetic Nathan Bannister, producer at 700 Club Interactive, and we are discussing the piece, I would almost call it a mini doc, that he recently completed on one of the real-life heroes from the Benghazi attack. He's also one of the main story subjects from the film 13 Hours. If you haven't seen the full piece, you should check it out down below. It goes through all the stuff that happened in Benghazi. And you should maybe check out the film too. That'd always be a good research tool. But Nathan, give me the cliff notes on who Call Sign Tanto is and what story you did.
So we focused this mini doc on Tanto's piece. That's his call sign, real name Kris Paronto. Really great guy. He's really down to earth, really fun. But he was just giving us his take on what happened in Benghazi and just everything from him starting out in the military to being a contractor for the CIA and up to the day of Benghazi. How
would our story or what kind of we do here and what you did differ from what someone would find out in the movie?
Yeah, so the difference between what we did with our mini doc versus, say, 13 Hours, they did a great job showing the whole story from different characters, but this one was more focused on his story of kind of a divine nature, things that happened that really encouraged his faith during the process in the midst of Benghazi, Libya.
When you do feel let down, you gotta have faith in God, and you gotta have faith in the Lord. If I die on this battlefield today, may I die at peace with you.
So in talking with him, you didn't have a whole lot of time. Tell me about that restriction, how that changed, and how you approached the interview knowing that you had such a limited time.
Right, so we found out about the interview. We tried to do a quick turnover with it. We had about an hour. Then we found out that we had less than an hour to work with. So we were trying to be very efficient with the light setup, get him in, get him out before his next interview. But he was really cool about it, real patient. We actually had a cam op who was double booked. And so trying to get that situated, we actually had you come in as a follow-up, like, hey, so you work cameras, you're really awesome with that. So diversity is key. And so he had many Swiss Army knife skills he was able to whip out. But luckily the other cam op was able to finish his piece, come back, and then work ours. So we had enough cam ops for the piece. So
all I did was babysit, and I was really excited when the professionals showed up because I was nervous.
A little nervous, yep.
What did you do when you found out you went from an hour to a half hour with this guy?
I had to catch some questions. I came up with questions the day before, made sure everything played into the story really well. But when it came down to it, it's like, okay, I need the meat and potatoes of this story. And so we had to make sure that I was able to get the synopsis of the entire story while also not leaving out some really cool moments that happened.
How do you handle your nerves when you're working with someone who's got a bit of a reputation and is the main story subject of a feature film?
Yeah, so I had to do research. I watched 13 Hours, and I was just like, I'm interviewing this guy. This guy is incredible. He's a hero, but even in the movie, they were like, streamlined, like he was just chill the whole time. Just do what you need to do. He was like that in real life, and he actually liked how they cast him in the movie because he is so level-headed, and he doesn't even think of himself as a hero, which adds to his humility. He is so humble and so calm about everything that he made me feel like I was welcome and special and like all that stuff. I was like, oh, thanks for warming my heart. But he was just really, really cool, down to earth, very agreeable guy.
Early on, I think even in pre-production, you made the decision to go with illustrations as B-roll. Talk to me about why you made that decision and kind of how you went about executing that.
Getting B-roll is so important to tell the story, otherwise it's a bunch of talking heads and stuff. So you really want to have something that really entertains, but also gets the viewer inside that person's world. Very difficult when you're dealing with Benghazi, Libya, which I don't even think we can get into right now. Very dangerous scenario. Casting would be a little difficult. We can't, just building a production design, like a set that's like wartime and stuff, having AK-47s on campus and everything, probably gonna be pretty difficult. So I really wanted to go artistic with it. I had seen some previous pieces on PBS and stuff that you can do on a much lower budget, but it's so efficient with storytelling and really involves you into that world. So I wanted to go graphic novel. I really love graphic novels growing up.
Did you make that decision before even going into the interview?
Yes. I don't know if it was approved yet, but I knew that it would have to work for this. If there was ever a time to bring graphic novel in, like now is the time. And I think it worked really well, far better than I actually anticipated.
The discussion came up of why didn't you just use film footage? I mean, they did all that work, they had all the sets, they did everything for you.
Some of it is licensing, and it's not always licensing through the film company, it's licensing through whoever owns the creative ideas, whoever owns the images and stuff. So garnishing that relationship with film producers and stuff, it would have taken a long time. And with turnover, you really want to get something a little more effective and efficient. And sometimes you can't use those images past 6 months, 3 months, or just the interview, maybe once it airs, you can't use it anymore.
When approaching the graphic guys, when approaching someone you know is going to design images for you, how much material did you have to give them? How much references did you give them? And how much of a finished product did you have to deliver before they took off with it?
It took a little while to get that approval for the original piece. So in the meantime, I was like, all right, let's make the most of it. So I got him to, I didn't make him watch the entire movie, but I had to show him scenes of environment so he understood, so the artist understood the environment. But I actually gave him camera angles by drawing it out myself. Weren't stick figures, but definitely not like up to his grade. I mean, it showed what he needed, so it was good. But the way he played with it was so much more effective, I think, in the final run. And he was able to give more of an expansive view of my little images that I drew just to get the initial idea across. He got the idea, which was great, and I was able to implement that in the piece to move on with the approval process. But slowly, as he was able to give images, it opened up people's eyes to see more and more like, oh, this is absolutely gonna work. He was the master of the whole B-roll segments. He just made everything so much better than I could have on my own, or if we had even tried to film it, you know? So let's go shoot Libya, you know, off the fly.
What did you learn that surprised you, or what were some of the elements that kind of didn't make it into the story that still resonated with you?
It was really powerful to see that these guys are not coworkers. In a sense, they're brothers. Some were lost that night, and that is just to see the emotional impact of him dealing with that was powerful, but in the same sense, he's a warrior. And so he has to look beyond just his emotions and still focus on the task at hand. And even now you can tell that there's a side of him that deals with that, but there's also a side of him that's just like, but you gotta live life. Also just seeing how you can work together as brothers and make decisions even when you disagree with orders. Like doing your own thing sometimes is the right thing. So it was just very interesting. It was very interesting.
Nice. Well, Nathan, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this or you have some questions, comments, leave them below. If you want to subscribe, I'll have the internet wizards put a button there. Thanks again for watching and stay creative.